Longer muted. Hello, internet.
Are you twitching it?
Sounds
Yep.
good.
Was it that fast? Oh, you got your magical headphones on. That's how.
I don't want to cause feedback loops.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You freak me out with your magical headphones because I never know if you're
But
listening.
I don't understand why there's such a fast feedback loop here. It was 45 seconds last night, wasn't it?
That was on my phone. That might be part of it.
Oh,
Are
okay.
not run by
All right.
the service manager or the field service manager.
So let's
Run by the project manager.
JavaScript.
Christina, Steve, and Sarah.
We were gonna do JSFiddle, weren't we?
Yeah. JSFiddle is
Serve
fun.
it to branch under the service.
Ah.
The ones I created.
Is this another language or what is this?
They're still.
You should go with jQuery has a good base up there.
What?
The
You're
jQuery
still here.
base.
I am still here. So
Base?
he's saying that they're still.
It's a
Just
template
there,
thing.
but he's saying that they're still.
jQuery, JSFiddle.
It's branch.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
There
the
we go.
PMs are still managing larger.
Yes, this is a good.
Yeah.
The PMs are still.
This is something we can work with.
project deployments, and there's
You don't need to use jQuery, but we can.
Right. No, that's fine.
Managing SPS onboarding, the professional services team.
Even DC defined.
All right, so we have newcomer, so we're going to explain some basics.
Are those PC?
So this up here, I got a little bit of a glare problem.
Yes.
Do you want to turn down the switch just a bit? Beautiful.
But I looked back.
All right, so this up here, upper left quadrant, upper left quadrant is HTML code, but they're labeled CSS, and this is JavaScript. This produces this output right here, and what we want to show is that like you can change the color by clicking on this,
She asked, well, what happens, like, I have this one.
and then that's it, like it just does that.
SPS.
So that's neat, but I think what we want to do is have it so we can go back and forth, and so we're going to change this JavaScript code.
Probably explain a little bit about like how the classes work and everything.
Yeah.
Classes and IDs and stuff like that.
So in HTML, which is like you see these things, we call them tags, which is greater than, less than, with garbage in the middle. Are you familiar with HTML at all?
Not really.
Okay. So HTML is a markup language, hypertext markup language, and let's see, I want to blow this up. There we go. That's
So
where
each
more
of these
comfortable.
corners is giving the same direction?
No, these are different components. This is the markup that dictates that there's going to be a box, and then this over here says stuff about like the box should have a radius on the box. It should have a background on the box. This doesn't tell you where what things exist. It just tells you how to style them. And then down here we've got the JavaScript, which is the functionality, the interactivity. So we got a thing. We're going to style it, and then we're going to make it do stuff. Basically, that's how it boils down. So we've got this thing called a div, which, without going into a history lesson on HTML, is a box. And you can have a box do whatever size, whatever color you want. It can have a bunch of styles applied to it, kind of do whatever you want. P is for paragraph, so it's a paragraph with hello world, not much of a paragraph. And then button element, which is obviously a button. And then down here we've got the CSS. CSS stands for cascading the style sheets. And the word cascading there basically means there's a hierarchy of command. There's like a global, here's how things should look, and then a step down, here's more specific rules, and it overrides the more specific, the style command. It overrides everything up the chain. So you could say, I want all divs to have a background color of black, but then on a given div, you can actually have styling that says, no, this one's going to be this style. And then, so that's what it dictates that there's a box, and then it's blue, and then it's got rounded corners, and this is the font, and all this stuff. And then over here, we've got JavaScript, which is actual code, like programming. This is code, and this is code, but they're not programming languages. They are...
they're just defining procedure. They're defining what just is statically.
Right. State of the world. So here we've got some JavaScript, and what we're doing is var is shorthand for variable, declaring variable named banner. It could be named elephant or cheetah or whatever, doesn't really matter. Banner makes sense because we're grabbing
Which is super helpful.
the using jQuery. That's what the $sign means. jQuery.
Right.
jQuery's got a function that will grab something, and we're passing it here in between these double parentheses is a CSS selector. And you'll see a similar CSS selector right here. And you'll see that same name right here. The pound is a stand-in for ID. And if you look at elsewhere, I don't think you've got one.
.alt.
Alt, see the dot, is a stand-in for a class. And you can see a class being defined here, but there's no class up here, right? Nothing says class equals. And so what this code does is it adds a class to the thing we click on. So walking through it, we've got this banner message, which I think, yeah, that's the div.
Which is the blue. Well, no, the banner message.
It's the div, right?
It says the background is white.
We can scoot over.
I'm alright.
Yeah, it's 300 pixels.
I mean, it says that the background is white, but the background is. Oh, we've already clicked on the thing, haven't we?
Yeah, we clicked on it.
That's why. Okay.
Yeah.
Is this Bootstrap?
No, I don't. This is not Bootstrap.
This is JSFiddle with jQuery.
No.
So when we were playing with this before, we made all this stuff. How would all of this integrate together if you were actually putting this on a web page? Like, what would it look like?
I mean, you're looking at it.
It's separated out into three. Like, there's three spots
files.
in
No,
the.
you can't put it in 3 files. You can also put it in one HTML file. There's a
That's what I
tag.
mean. How would you put it? And
There's a script tag. You put all the JavaScript in, and there's a style tag. You put all the style sheets
because
in.
I don't. I'm learning HTML.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at an HTML document, like let's just look at this one for giggles.
Above the head.
It's going to be a bunch of garbage. You're going to see HTML tag, head start tag, head end tag, body end tag, and HTML end tag, right? These are the basic building blocks of all web pages.
Okay.
All right. In the head, you can declare resources you want to pull in. CSS is one resource, JavaScript is another resource, and there's other.
So
resources.
head is like import and go.
Right.
Okay.
They don't have to be in there. I think if you put some of this stuff in body, it will still work. But it's, I think, somewhat convention.
That's considered inline, like inline CSS or inline school.
Yeah.
Not this, because
Not for this?
Well, what these are doing is it's just giving you like a file name for where you're going to find the thing, like those script sources.
Online, right?
Yeah, and that's just telling you the JavaScript I want you to load is here. But if you take out that source equals and just you start writing JavaScript in between script and /script, then it will it'll run it whenever the page loads.
Yeah.
I think the reason why they put it in the head is because old browsers that didn't understand JavaScript, if you put it in the body, would just show raw JavaScript in the body.
Right.
So you put it in the head so that it can't possibly display it, because the stuff that comes from the head is like the page title, like at the top of this page it says jQuery add class example, and that's something that goes in the head.
Yeah.
And
So you don't want it part of the document itself.
yeah.
Does that make sense, Kirk?
Mm-hmm.
And say, here's your current status.
So, like I said, all three of these could all be separate files, or they could all be in one document. It makes no difference. Most people don't want to have a single document that's like 10,000 lines long. Like you want to split them out into this thing's responsible for this thing's responsible for this, et cetera, et cetera. And so what we're doing here in the JavaScript, so if I run this again, now we're back to before we clicked the button, right? So when I click the button, see the click here? We're saying button, so that's this button, which is this guy. And we know it's that guy because this is CSS selector button, which
I don't make the big bucks.
So
So you guys are authorizing me to do it. I will do
the button, so in a CSS selector, if you don't have like a hashtag or a dot or any other kind of indicator, it's going to look for the element named button, and this is considered the element name. Just like div is this thing's element name.
Right.
So we say, give us the button, and then for the button in JavaScript, you've got the ability to, for this button, say on, and we can assign an action. So click is an action, function being our callback. And function and callback is just a function we want to run when the action happens. And what we're doing is we're saying banner is going to get a class added to it of alt.
Is the class in the CSS? Can you scroll down to see so I
Sure
can see what
is.
that is?
So it says
Banner message alt.
banner message alt. Now the fact that they're chained together like this, the hashtag banner message and .alt, no spacing, means that it's going to find only an element with ID banner message and class alt.
And not if you had another ID that was not a banner message but some other message,
It wouldn't
touch
apply.
it because it's
Right. Yep.
concatenated or
Yep. Exactly. So this is going to add the class of alt when you click the button. And what alt does is you can see it establishes a width, a margin, a different color, and a different background than what banner message. So banner message width is 300. Alt, it makes it smaller. You can improve that by clicking the button, and it gets smaller. A couple other mutations.
Are you using JSFiddle for anything, or is this just an example that you?
This
pulled
is
up?
just a nice tidy way to
Show
show the
HTML.
interaction, yeah. Rather than jumping between files in IDE, this is just, it's all right here. I think I can say if but banner dot, is there a has class? We're gonna look at documentation. Has class.
What are you trying to do?
So what I want to do is, right now this button, I'm just going to expand on what this thing does. I want to make it so that when you click the button, it goes to this blue square that's in a different spot because we added the class. And I want to make it, if you click it again, it goes back. So basically we add the class or we remove the class. And I'm going to show you, that it's possible to do, how the code would look. And
So
then
you're
what
saying,
happens.
so you're going to put in code that'll say, if it's this, and I click this button, do this. If it is not,
Right.
or
So if it has the class alt,
otherwise,
else
that.
do this thing.
Do you have to put a space in between lines?
Do not have to.
Not in this language.
Not in this language, yeah. Some languages are very finicky. Python.
Remove class is the other one.
Banner.remove class. No. No. There. So now theoretically if I run this, you click on it, and click on it again.
Huh.
Boom.
Cool.
Yeah, so in this language, this is JavaScript, it's very free-spirited language. It doesn't require a lot of things. You can kind of mash your code together. In fact, one very popular thing to do to make it hard for people to steal your code. Let's see, I'm sure there's a source that does it here. Choices? Oh.
The jQuery website will have a minimized jQuery.
Yeah, well, we got one right here.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's one right there.
So here's, like, this is JavaScript all in one line.
You're at the end of the line.
Yeah.
Pretty print this minified file.
Oh, pretty printed. it tries. So what this does is it takes all of this code is in line, like it's all in one big stupid line, but it still functions just fine. In JavaScript, that's perfectly acceptable, but in a language like Python, the universe explodes. It doesn't work. Like it requires the spacing. Let's see if it does it. You can click the button on the bottom status bar.
Bottom left.
It's gonna. Oh,
Ooh.
interesting. It's fascinating. But the people that created minification are annoyed.
I hope so.
Yeah. Doesn't. Yeah. Look at this. How long is this?
How many lines? 59.
67,000 lines of JavaScript. I mean, a lot of them are freaking curly brace, but
Holy cow.
yeah, it's silly. That's a thing.
But that's probably like a whole JavaScript library that somebody wrote, or a bunch of people wrote over a long time, and just been adding stuff to over time as they need more functionality out of it.
Yeah.
And then they include it in this page. So a lot of stuff works like that. And just there's an existing library, you can just use the functions out of it.
Mm-hmm.
If it does something you don't know how to do on your own.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. It's a lot of work if you just don't
Yeah.
reference it again.
Yeah.
That's what the language that Go and Python has a library. Does Python
Most
use
languages.
libraries?
Pretty much every language has that.
Libraries.
Yeah, libraries are pretty common.
Could you make the button talk?
We could, but it would require some additional technologies. So we'd have to be able to like load a sound file, for example, click the button and play the sound file. Could totally do it. I don't have any of the resources necessary to do it right now. You can also, there's like Amazon has APIs that you can talk with Amazon Polly and give it text, and it'll read the text to you in one of a bunch of different voices.
We should explain what an API is.
Sure. So when I
Thank you.
go to this website right here, and I click and I hit enter, I get this page, right? In a way, this is an API, but what an API really is an application programming interface. So your application speaks with something, some cloud service. And it's not always a cloud service, but in most cases we're talking about
Libraries
cloud
have APIs and services have APIs.
Yeah.
They're just ways that you're defined to interact with something else that
Right.
isn't what you're just writing on your own.
Right.
So there's a way that you interact with jQuery, and that's the jQuery API, and that's what this is defining. So things
Right.
like hasClass is what we're using to talk to the jQuery object that we were playing with. But something like a web API is a totally different way to call that, to talk to it, to interact with it.
And a good example, we use ConnectWise, right? And you use ConnectWise. ConnectWise has an interface that is available for other programmers like him and him to go and ask the web interface for information instead of going to the database itself where the files live, because then you don't have people going directly to the data. You have a web interface that you can control access to everything else.
Yeah, I mean, the alternative for ConnectWise, for example, would be giving someone direct database access and having to permission that and like be very careful. And you can break things pretty easily if you give somebody direct access to a database.
There's a lot of consistency checking that the program does that the database can't do on its own.
Right.
And that's the kind of stuff that you want the program to be offering a way to manipulate data instead of going straight to the database, where you can tell it, you just like, if there's 3 pieces of data that depend on each other, and you just delete one of them,
Mm-hmm.
that will break things because the data can't reference the other pieces of data that it needs. Whereas if you do it through the program knows that these pieces of data are related, and if
It
you
won't let
have
you.
to delete one of them, it'll safely find a way to change all the references to it to something else so that everything still works.
It's a gate. It's a gatekeeper for the data.
Yeah,
That
and
everybody, it's in a standard that everybody can use to access
right.
what they need.
And it allows you to abstract away access. So, for example, if I want to give, like ConnectWise, for example, a configuration, right? And I want to give it an IP address. ConnectWise actually can accept whatever data I give and then check to see if the data I gave it was actually an IP address, and if it wasn't, reject it. If I had direct database access, that's not a thing.
So you would just put bad data in there?
I wouldn't intentionally.
Well, I know, but you wouldn't have that checking.
Right. Then it would maybe spit out an error that's useful to me, saying, "Hey, that's not valid data." Which is exactly what has happened when I went and talked to Enable. Said, "Hey, give me this thing and its IP address," and I go and put it in ConnectWise, and so that IP address is invalid because it's got a space after it. That kind of stuff.
My visit was short and sweet today. I have to go Rosie.
That's cool.
I'm doing candle making. Very excited.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Do you have options for multiple colors?
I don't know. It's my first time. So
Well, make sure that you
I will
have.
let you know tomorrow.
You complain if you don't get colors.
I kind of like white, but I'll see what I can do.
White goes with
Bye,
everything.
guys. Thank
Have a good one.
Yeah.
So does black.
So does
Black
black.
candle.
It's good for satanic rites.
I mean, probably.
Yes, it is. Private fiddle.
All right. Somebody that isn't me or Christian.
Not me.
I was going to challenge somebody to loop that thing,
Loop it. What do you mean?
or recursively loop it, or whatever you're going to do, Christian.
What? So that it'll.
To loop what?
Adding and removing a class, but it's
They
not
can
a
keep
challenge
on doing
for you.
that over and over?
Without having to click anything?
Yeah.
I mean, I know how to do
I
that.
wouldn't- I
I've done
would
that
not
before.
know how to do that.
So, who else would like to try?
Yeah, do it.
Like, I'll help you find the stuff that you need to do it. But
Yeah, we won't
it
just sit
is-
here and laugh at you.
it is good to have practice. Having to work through it yourself to a big degree. What was that?
Oh, it's the.
The rock band thing?
Yeah, who cares?
Okay.
Is it not letting you click on anything?
No, I'm just. So what's the difference between a loop and a recursive loop, first of all?
Oh, that was probably a joke because I fixed something with a recursive function last time.
Yeah.
that He couldn't fix without a recursive function.
I was just giving
Was
you
it
shit.
a real thing or no?
It's a real thing, but it's probably not what you need to start with.
So a loop versus a recursive function. A loop is a thing that loops. And you're
Yeah.
familiar with like what a for loop looks like?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay. A recursive function is a function that calls itself.
Oh.
So
Which
like-
is.
Eats its own tail.
Okay.
So like if you were going to write a Fibonacci sequence function, you could do it with a for loop where you just keep on adding up the numbers as you go in like some variable. But you could also do it with a recursive function where you just add, you basically add your input argument and whatever came before it, and you call yourself at the end after you've done some addition. And after you get so many calls in, the whole thing returns and you have the answer that you're looking for. It's kind of hard to explain, but when you see it actually in use, it makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean, you know what a function looks like? You declare a function that can accept input, right?
Yeah.
And it can return output, right?
Mhm.
So if you accept input of a number, right, and you return a number, if you feed it the number 1, and inside the function it adds 1 plus,
Whatever you
add the value to the value,
Yeah.
right? And then you return, or you call yourself with that value, and then you have to have a break in the function somewhere. Yo, he's out.
So you.
What you'd want to have the ability to return without
Going outside
calling
of the.
yourself,
Okay.
right? So we're explaining Fibonacci instead of writing it, which is silly.
Fibonacci is adding the previous numbers together.
The last two, yeah.
The last two. So if
That-
it's 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, 3 plus 2 is 5.
Yep, 5, 8, and then 13, and 21, I think, and it's a common example for here's how you would write your recursive function as a Fibonacci function.
That's doing a recursive function. Or
So
We don't need to do
this.
we don't need to do a recursive function, but we probably will need to do something that gets a little bit close to that if we're going to use timeouts or intervals.
why would you need to do timeouts intervals?
Well, if we're going to have
Maybe you
it,
don't want it to go on forever.
I thought you wanted it to go on forever.
so we should look up the JavaScript a guide on how to use set interval and set timeout in JavaScript, because that's what they're going to need.
Clear interval, clear timeout. And then, so set interval and set timeout return a value that most people never even catch.
Yep.
If you pass that value to clear interval or clear timeout, it stops.
I'm not asking how to stop. I'm just saying if he doesn't know about set interval or set timeout, he's not going to be able to do the request of having it just switch back and forth.
Sure.
Well, can't you just do a for loop for n equals this plus so many times
Sure.
when n equals
100,000.
30?
If you had a delay in there,
What do you need to do? Oh, you want a delay so that it doesn't flip back and forth too fast.
I mean, it's going to try to change states a lot faster than because when this changes states, it takes time. It's not like inconsequential to a computer amount of time. It's like half a second it spends changing between the two colors, right?
Yep.
The computer will change the states a lot of times in between those two colors.
That's why you
Before it
want
switches.
a delay in order to.
And I don't know what would do. I don't know whether it would just like finish one and then switch back to the other, or actually just go back and forth like you would expect. It's kind of undefined how that would work.
That's a good question. Be an interesting thing to try to break.
Let's try and do it with a for loop. Let's see what happens.
Let's do it.
Okay. So
Go, Kirk, go.
I don't know how to write.
that's fine. Go ahead. Yep, that should be fine.
Mozilla documentation is usually excellent.
It's great documentation, but sometimes like beginner tutorials will explain the basic things a little bit better, and these are great for more technical explanations sometimes. So just start with copying that block of code that you see there. Just copy the whole thing, and then
Yeah, I was
we'll
hoping.
paste it into the fiddle. Right, and paste that at the bottom of the other thing. Yeah, down there. Down a couple more lines.
Not within the.
Yeah, not inside that function. Yeah, go down. Yep, no, now paste it. Okay. Now I have a for loop. And I don't think we're looking at the console, but we could open up the console. This doesn't really give you a console to look at.
Right.
So we don't need this console one?
You don't need that, but we're
No.
going to put something else in its place.
Okay.
So, yeah. So the way the way for loops work in most languages is you have an initializer. If you want to loop 5 times, you'll set some variable that gets thrown away afterwards, usually to 0, and then usually you'll have something like this line down here. Step is less than 5,
Okay.
and then the
Starts at 0.
it starts at 0, so step is 0, and step is 0 is less than 5. So it's going to go through the first loop. It's going to run everything that's inside these curly braces, and that's going to check. It's going to run this at the end, step plus plus, which adds 1 to step.
So step is now 1. Is it still less than 5?
Still less than
yes.
5.
Do it again.
So it does it again. As soon as this stops being true, if this evaluates to false, it breaks the loop.
Okay.
And you don't have to use that initialized variable in that loop. It's just a very common structure to do it like that because most of the uses for a for loop, you need to do that.
So we want to, we're going to do a for, we want to disable all this though, right?
Well-
No, I think you want to keep this.
Yes, but that is, the action for that is on click. Wouldn't you want to have a different action that you don't have to click
No, you still want to click,
the first
but
time?
when you click, it starts the loop and then it stops. And if you click it again, it does the loop again, right?
You can have it do that. Or we can just have it so that, I mean, we have a for loop where it's going to run something 5 times. We can have it switch 5 times. So you click a button, it'll switch to the alternate state, and then back, and then 2, and then back, and then 2, and that's 5, and it stops.
And if you click it again, it would go back to, right?
It would toggle 5 more times.
Yeah.
So you can have it do that, kind of the way things are set up now. But there's a couple things that you have to understand for that. First is that you're going to want to have a function that isn't the one that's inside this button on click.
Yeah.
This is defining a function, and it's not a named function. So you can, if you pull it out of here, you can give it a name.
Mm-hmm.
You can still call it from inside of here, but
So if we don't comment that out and we build our loop down here and then we click the button, which one is it going to obey? Is it going to obey our loop or is it going to obey
Well, right now,
executing once?
right now, if you were to execute this,
Yeah.
the button won't do anything until you click.
Yeah.
But the loop, where it's sitting right now, is going to execute immediately and then never again. Because where is it? It's outside. It's just sitting here in the scope of the JavaScript. It's not in a function to be called.
So that's,
so what this is doing is saying that it's taking an existing button and it's just adding an event listener to it. And
yeah, so don't you
event-
want to put this in the function and then say,
It's already in a function. But it's in an anonymous function. Doesn't have a name. It's just a function, and there's no name to the function. It takes no inputs. Then you have curly brackets, and that's the body of the function.
So a reasonable way to deal with this would be to basically copy if you go up from lines 6 through 12, you want to copy just the function part, not the click and the button and the on, but from the word function down till the last curly brace there on line 12.
And then stop before the last parenthesis at the end.
Exactly. You follow?
Keep going.
Keep
A
going.
little farther.
Keep
Farther.
going. Line 12. There's
Yep,
the first character, not the second character.
Cut,
Line
stop
12.
right here.
There you go.
There you go.
Cut.
cut?
Sure. Yep. Now, go down somewhere else. Not in there.
Not in the function?
And not inside of something else.
Not inside
we
of
want
anything.
to define it at the top level because we're going to need to call this from anywhere.
There you go. So now, what you need to do is name the function. So after the word function,
But before the parent.
before the parenthesis, right there, yep, space, give it a name.
I like to call it toggle. I suggest that. Do stuff is also a workable name. Toggle is probably more
It's
informative.
better than vivid.
It is better than vivid.
Okay.
Naming things is hard.
All right, so now you've got a function that does the same work. Now you can go up and replace what you cut out with just the call of toggle. So right there, yep.
And this is case sensitive, so you have to make sure it's capitalized the same way both times.
So that's valid. Now what we can do in our for loop,
You don't have to do the open paren, close paren in
No.
the up there.
not
do
in that,
Not in this case.
you? Not in JavaScript.
not in that place. Well, if you want to call things, yes, but in JavaScript with the event handler, you want to
Yeah,
pass
no.
it the named function without calling the named function.
Because if you call the
Okay.
function, you're going to get the function's return value. That's going to get replaced there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a function that returns a function, which you could do in JavaScript, that works.
It's very common, unfortunately.
I find no problem with it.
I hate it.
You've never tried to write a derivative without having that.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I've gotten all the way with it without it for a long time.
Not everybody has to write derivatives. Anyway, so
All right, so now we've got a function. When you click the button, it's going to call toggle.
what we should do first is just click play.
Sure.
Make sure that everything's still working the way we expect it to. The run button up there. Right, and click on it, and click again. Cool. Still running the same code.
But you notice it's not looping. So
Yeah.
how do we fix that? All the code we need to fix it, to make it loop, is on that JavaScript file screen. We just need to put things in different places. And I'll give you a second to think over it and see if you can do it.
Oh.
Right, so when you click on the change color button, it's going to run the toggle function, right?
Yeah.
And you want what's in the toggle function to happen 5 times.
So when you put this in the for loop,
Not that, because that's just
Okay.
going to.
That's what I initially was thinking when I said, "Oh, that's what I thought you would
Nope.
do is put the
Nope.
button on click inside."
Because if you were to put the button on click inside of a for loop, you're adding event listeners to the DOM.
And you don't want to do
You don't
that,
want to do that. We only want one event listener.
which is the button on click.
Button on click, yep, it's established, it's fine.
So you, instead of putting that in there, the button click calls
then
the
do
function
you
toggle.
put the function in the for loop?
Or
That's-
could you put the
that would-
for loop in the function? You could do either one. Both of those will make it happen 5 times.
Putting the for loop in the function?
Yeah, you could put the for loop in the function,
But putting the
Or you
for
could-
loop in the function will just do the console log 5 times still.
unless you replace what's inside the console in the body of that for loop
Right.
with the existing body of toggle.
But can't you just put the function of toggle inside the for loop?
Yes, but then you would need to call it again. I mean, these are both valid ways to do it. If you want to do it
I don't.
by putting toggle inside the for loop, you'd have to make a new function called like toggle 5 times.
But
Huh.
is it,
Yeah, that's overcomplicated. They would.
is.
They're not equal. One of them is correct. Putting the for loop inside the function is what you want to do.
Okay. It's all of it.
Actually, just lines 8 and 11 are important.
Yeah, you can delete the 8, 9, 9, and 10.
The console log.
Because for loop is a flow control.
Yeah.
We want it.
Float control.
Yeah, you're controlling the flow of the program by looping.
Flow. You said flow.
Yep.
Flow.
I thought you said float.
So what we do is we cut line 8 out and put it between lines 10 and 11. And then you got to close that for loop. So
Do we
line
need to
9.
indent? You want to indent these ones all?
Yeah, it's not
You don't
critical,
have
but-
to, but you can. It'll look nicer after you do, but let's get it working first.
Yep. So delete
Cut
that. Yep, there you go. And then you need to close your for loop, that's all. Yep.
Grr. Nice looking doing this.
Left, up, left, up.
I usually use home. Up, home, tab, up, home, tab, up, home, tab.
That works. Not that one. There you go. Now click run. Now click your button. And now we know what happens in a loop.
It did it 5 times very fast.
That's what you're talking about, having some sort of delay before
Yeah.
before it switches between the alt class and remove class.
And this is kind of where I was thinking that we should probably have the for loop outside of the function and call toggle, because then we can set a few timeouts that will call toggle separately. But that's like if you would be confused by the result of this, the reason why is the computer is operating so much faster than it's updating. It's
Mhm.
executing the loop completely, and then it updates the style basically once. As far as you
Right.
can tell, it's once.
And because the style is what we're doing is we're adding and removing a style class. and the part of the class's definition is an animation from one style to the next. By switching to and from quickly, it basically animated a very small part, if at all,
It probably didn't even start.
of the transition, and so it just sits there and doesn't do anything. Although on the 5th time, no, it's less than 5. If you do less than or equal to 5, it'll do what appears to be one transition.
It wouldn't even do one.
Should, because it's an odd number.
Not if it's less than or equal to 5. That it'll execute an even number of times.
Well,
That does nothing.
they both did nothing then.
No, the other one switches one time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot that it did that.
It's just because we're alternating between two states. If you alternate an odd number of times, you end up in the other state. If you alternate an even number of times, you end up where you started. And it's just doing that so fast that you're not able to visually see it. The browser's not even trying before it.
Right.
So if you change the less than 5 to 6,
Then it won't do anything.
Then it won't do anything.
Or if you change it to less than or equal to, that's basically the same thing as changing it to a 6.
which does it an even amount of times or an odd?
Even though it does it on 0, on 1, on 2, on 3, on 4, and on 5.
Got it.
That's 6 times. And there's a huge class of bugs that are just related to people using less than or equal to when they should use less than, or using less than when they should use less than or equal to. They're called off by one
Off by
errors.
one. I was going to say, is
Yeah,
that an off
and
by one error?
they're really common, and this is part of why.
So how do we make it wait? Pause or
The function is called set timeout or set interval. You probably want to use set timeout. I don't think you want to have that inside the toggle. Because go ahead and paste it in. Just paste it at the top level, like not inside the function, so that we have it in the document to work
Like
with. We can
enter.
refer to it by line number.
Paste.
Okay. So the thing to look at with set timeout is the first parameter to it, the first argument is a function. And you can put an anonymous function like it has there, or you can use a named function. You could replace that whole, like everything up to that comma, with just toggle, and it would execute toggle. You can get rid of the word function also, because we already have toggle defined as a function. Yeah. And after 3 seconds, it will run toggle. So if you click run now, wait 3 seconds. There you go.
so wouldn't we want to put it inside the function or inside the for loop?
Do you want to call toggle at the end of the for loop? I mean, you could do that.
No, we want to set the timeout when we start the for loop. So it executes
Or use
one loop, waits, executes one loop, waits, executes one
How
loop.
long do we need to
waits.
wait? Let's look at the CSS.
Let's say like 500 milliseconds, because that number is milliseconds. 300 is 3 seconds, or 3,000 is 3 seconds. So this will be half a second. I think that's a decent fun. Yeah, that was a. You could perceive the wait on that one. You're not waiting unduly long. So yeah, try setting that set timeout inside toggle. Wherever you think it would fit best, try putting it there.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
What the?
didn't follow the.
So what's going on is
Oh.
you have about 1,000 events right now that are all trying to run toggle.
Killing your browser.
And every time you run toggle, it makes more timeouts that run
I was
toggle.
wondering.
Like every single time toggle gets called, 5 more toggles. This is a Hydra. You have made a Hydra function. If you did this in any other language besides like a browser that's basically single-threaded, it'd be called a fork bomb. It makes bad things happen. Don't do that. So you can
comment that out.
comment that out, and then we'll refresh.
Hit
Do
run.
that and run again, so that we get rid of all the chaos you have unleashed upon the world. Okay.
Can you set a timeout without calling a function?
No. Because the argument that it takes is a function.
Is a
It can be an anonymous function. It can be a not anonymous function. You can just give it a name of a function. But its argument, it requires a function. Otherwise, what are you going to do when the timeout is reached?
So you said it could be an anonymous function. So
Yes,
you could
the
do
first-
set timeout.
The first way it was put in was as an anonymous function, which is just like
It was
the
calling
word
toggle.
function and then parens.
I was
Yep.
calling alert.
No, yeah, well, so
So
what
do
it
we
was
wanna
doing was
replace
it wasn't
this?
calling alert. It was calling a function that was running alert.
Yeah.
Do we want to replace this with set timeout?
Or with an anonymous function that doesn't do anything?
I mean, you could. What would be the point in doing that?
It still sets the timeout?
What does a timeout do?
Hmm.
Like what happens after 500 milliseconds if you give it an empty function?
Good point.
So do we want to replace this with that?
I gotta go.
All right, have a good one.
I mean, right now it doesn't work, right? Why doesn't it work?
Well, right.
No, it kind of works now, but
Yeah, we
we
took out
removed
the-
No, I mean, why doesn't it do it 5
We
times?
disabled Hydra functionality.
It's going too fast.
Right. So would it be better if it went too fast in 5 seconds? No, it wouldn't. So if you
No, I
have
understand
a timeout on the same function, you're going to get the same behavior just later. If you want to change the functionality, we need to change.
So do we want to pull this out, put it up here, and then paste this minus the for loop 5 times?
I think you're on the right track with that one. Do that and we'll see what happens.
So take this, put it here, delete that, and then tab that in.
No, because when you say function toggle, what you're defining is the word toggle now means this function, right? It's basically, so there was an anonymous function before, which just means it didn't have a name. What you can do is take the word toggle and just cut that, just cut, and go back to the beginning of the line. No, the beginning of the line. Yep, and paste, space, equals, space. Yep, that's the same thing. That means literally the same thing as what you said the first time. Unless toggle actually gets called, it's not going to do anything. You're just defining something very strenuously if you put it in a for loop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then hit enter? Or you want on the same thing?
It's fine. Either way is fine. I'm just trying to demonstrate how you should
Yeah.
think about what the function thing is doing.
So this is not going to work. Is the ultimate answer.
I mean,
The-
it'll probably
the-
still work.
This
It-
will work.
It won't do what you expect, but it will.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so
that is
you
by
wanna
definition
put-
not working.
You want to put this in here, then delete this, then repeat toggle 5 times.
So
What you want to do is run toggle at different points in the future.
but you want to run a toggle that doesn't have the for loop in it because you want the for loop to call toggle. Because defining toggle and calling toggle are two different things, right? Here you're defining toggle. When you call toggle, you say toggle and then 2 parens. Or if you do it in the set timeout up above, you just put the word toggle and it will call it later. Does that make sense?
What? Not
So
following.
a toggle is a variable.
Yep.
That variable contains a function.
Yep. If toggle happens, do this. Yep.
But you can work with that definition
Mm-hmm.
and like redefine it, or you can call it and have it actually execute what you have defined it to do. So the way it's set up right now, all it will do is define toggle 5 times to be the same thing every time. But you don't want to define toggle 5 times, you want to execute toggle 5 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just provide a definition of toggle 5 times, you need a toggle call.
So you want to take this out.
Yes. Because you need that to be defined someplace else.
And put it here.
That's a fine place for it.
How do I do that thing where you like indent them all one time?
That's in an editor that isn't this. I don't know if that will work in this.
Yeah, I don't know if it will.
So just do it the hard way.
Or do I?
Did you
Toggle
pull
needs to be all the way. Ah!
It doesn't need to be. It doesn't really care that much
Yeah,
about
I don't
spacing
want it.
for the most part,
I want
but it does
right.
look a lot nicer. Yeah. We're discovering the issue of spaces versus tabs.
Just delete. That's good. Up or down, right. Delete.
Spaces versus tabs, yep.
Okay.
And then you'll need to close the curly brackets on that one, because you have 2 open curly brackets more than you have closed. There's still one left. Because you have this one that's open, so that this closed the else, right?
Yeah.
You still have the function also has one open, and you need to close that one also to define the end of the function definition. Yep, there you go.
Which means you got 2 dangling curly braces down below line 17 somewhere.
Yeah.
It's so confusing now. I'll put it back.
Yep, that's fine.
Because it looks different. So it's good. Okay, so now.
That's fine. So now we can, get rid of all these extra. You only leave one of them just because that's for the for loop, but yeah, okay. So now what you need to do is call toggle 5 times.
So now we want to. So then do that. And then do that. And then do that. And do. How do I call toggle?
You write the word toggle and then put the 2 parens after it, and that will call toggle.
Like that.
Yep.
No, it's not doing what I want.
Nope. Because it's still running toggle so fast that the browser isn't even trying to render the change that you've made.
So here's a way to run this code in the future, because JavaScript doesn't have the concept of sleeping. It can only do stuff later with the timeout.
You can't tell it to just wait for a minute.
Right.
Or a second,
So,
or a half second.
But you can definitely tell it to do something in the future at some point, right? That's what set timeout does.
Yeah.
So we can run set timeout with.
So can I put set timeout in the function? And then call the function?
You want
Last time you put set timeout in the function, you made a Hydra.
Yeah.
Be careful.
So what you want to do is you want your your for loop.
Okay.
Right? You want that to execute toggle in the future. 5 times at different points in the future from now.
And not all in 500 milliseconds, but maybe at 500 milliseconds from now, and 1,000 milliseconds from now, and 1,500 milliseconds from now, and 2,000 milliseconds from now,
You follow?
and 2,500
Yeah.
milliseconds from now. So what you might, you want that. You just want that inside the
whole
for
line.
loop, because that is where you're calling toggle from. And actually, you can just leave that one there.
That's true. Well, you don't want to do that.
You can. It'll run one of them immediately.
Yeah, but it will and it won't. It'll run the fifth one immediately. But we're not. Yeah, we're not done yet. So now you're calling set toggle very rapidly 5 times 500 milliseconds from now. What you want to do is call it at different times in the future. So you want to change your delay, which is currently 500, every time you go through the loop.
You have a number that is changing every time you go through the loop. That number is step. You can multiply it by step, and then your first time out
Does
will...
it want the
asterisk.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't know if it wanted stupid math.
No, it's very common for asterisk to be the multiplier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's not. It didn't
No.
wait on the button click to stop
Nope, it didn't.
It did not. Because you didn't have anything... I mean, if you click the button now, it'll still do toggle, right? If you click on it, that's still toggling.
Yeah.
But the first thing it did when you loaded the page is it ran the for loop. It didn't wait until you clicked on anything because it's not being told to wait.
So if you wanted
where's
to...
my button click?
So button click's right there. On
Button
click, you're doing
click.
toggle.
Then do.
Now, if you wanted to do the for loop instead,
I want to put that in its own function, and then
Yes.
call that function
there
instead.
you go.
Yes.
Yep, exactly right.
So, naming things is hard. I suggest the name toggle 5 times.
What about...
Yep. And then you need the curly brace.
Mystic Seagull says you should generally make that inline to save the memory calls as a function param of the click function.
Memory calls?
I mean, we are in JSFiddle, so we're not building a high performance
Yeah. We're,
This right
thing.
yeah, that looks right.
But yes, I appreciate that that's
now.
correct.
I want to,
Right now we're trying to not call it 5 times in a nanosecond. Yeah, no, I totally get that it saves web page load times. But it doesn't matter if you save web page load times if you don't know how to program it, and we're just trying to learn to program it.
Yeah, this is beginner's night. So
Yep.
we're teaching somebody JavaScript.
Doesn't matter if it generates a gigabyte worth of RAM.
There you go.
Although if this does manage to tank this machine, which I don't think it would take much to tank this machine's not great.
It's mostly just the hard drive that sucks.
Yeah, well, but we've also seen, yeah. Yeah, this is beginner's night, Mystic Seagull. So we get I don't know if you're one from our team or not, but we break it down to the basics and make sure that we cover all the Swiss cheese knowledge. And so optimizing for memory footprint isn't exactly within the purview.
What's going?
I'm just
Talk to
communicating
somebody
with
to the chat on
Twitch chat
Twitch.
since you're driving. Now, answer me this, Kirk. Why in the button.on do you not have open close parenthesis after toggle 5 times?
Because we're calling a function, not defining it.
No, it's because you're not calling the function. You're asking on click to call it later. So you're passing it without calling it. If you do
Yeah, when click happens, we call it.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I was
It's
just,
already
I was just
defined.
challenging your brain.
Yeah.
That's all.
Oh, okay.
No, Mystic Seagull, a 7200 RPM hard drive would be a fucking blessing. This piece of shit's got a 5400 RPM laptop hard drive, 2.5 inch pile of garbage. Although it is a hybrid. So there's that, smiley face. Yeah, I know. He says, oh boy. He or she. I shouldn't assume
They.
gender.
They is always appropriate
They.
for the gender.
No, she did.
So now you've succeeded in doing the thing 5 times, right?
Yep.
You understand how that happened?
I think so.
Okay. So you're using set timeout. So what happens when you click that button is it calls toggle 5 times, right?
Yep.
Toggle 5 times runs. Give me a guesstimate of how long it takes for toggle 5 times to execute. Nanoseconds, full seconds. Give me just a ballpark. How long do you think it takes?
Second math. 2,500.
If you're doing math, you're probably not coming up with the right answer.
That's correct. Because I assume you're doing math on
6.5
500
seconds.
times the number of steps.
Yeah.
So that's actually not correct because this function will execute and it basically sets up these timeouts and it's done. It returns, it is complete within nanoseconds. And then later, JavaScript has these set timeouts that trigger and it calls the function toggle. And then it does it again. And then it does again. All independent of the function being called. So you can actually click that button a few times and you're going to get a whole bunch of wacky shit going on.
Yep.
But it moves, so it's harder to click.
You can make it not
Yeah,
move.
change that so that it stops being a
You're
punch.
going to look for the one that says Alt. It's going to say Alt on it. And
Milliseconds.
margin top, I think, is...
Oh. You think it actually takes milliseconds, Mystic Seagull? I doubt it takes milliseconds. We could find out. I bet it's well under a millisecond.
What?
Margin top?
Yeah, but there is no margin top.
Yeah, there was. It was just on the screen.
Yeah, but there's no margin top
So
in
there's a margin-
regular Vantage.
So the way CSS works with some of these parameters is like margin 0 auto. You see that one?
Yeah.
So that's saying that the margin is 0 for everything. Well, I think it's actually auto for everything except for the top, but I'm not a CSS expert. But margin here is defining what margin top will be later. It's just defined as one thing instead of as 4 separate things for top, bottom, left, and right. There we go.
I mean,
So you can click it a whole bunch of times at once and
you've
make
got
chaos
redundant
happen.
margin stuff there, but and you're gonna see it. Yeah, it kind of lose its shit a little bit. Zero left, right. Auto is top, bottom. Oh, so if you only give it 2 parameters, it assumes 0 is for left and right, and auto is for the top and the bottom. That's news to me.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I am not a super expert at this.
I
What
thought I
happens when you
was
release this?
pretty well versed, but I'm always learning.
Yeah.
How come it needs that up there, but it doesn't need it down here?
Needs
It
what?
doesn't need.
Oh, because it's already defined and it hasn't changed. Like you only have to define the changes for the different classes.
Oh, now it's being weird.
Well, again, that was the
Yeah, you may want to put that snippet
the
back.
0 for left and right. Mystic Seagull is full stack web dev, game dev, and software dev. I'm recently first. I'm decently first. Yeah.
More than us. Appreciate your input.
Yeah. I've done a bunch of CSS in my day, but of course, I never thought to investigate what margins
What is it?
parameters
Why
would
is
do.
auto weird? What am I doing wrong?
Mystic Seagull might
Oh,
correct us.
you're missing the colon after margin.
Oh yeah, margin colon. Oh, there you go.
There you go. Yep.
So Mystic Seagull, we've got 3 people in the room here. I know you don't have video of our faces. I'm Brendan, we got Christian, and we got Kirk. Me and Christian have some dev experience. Kirk is a newbie. I would rank myself full stack web developer, but focused on back end. Christian,
I don't know.
scripting focused most on back end, but
I do scripting mostly because that's what people ask me to do.
yeah.
It's not a voluntary focus. That's kind of a need focus.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you as well.
If I could get away on a day-to-day basis not doing front end, I'm happier. The front end is where all the action is.
And that's kind of why I like to teach newbies in HTML, JavaScript, and all that. It's just because you can make a front end and people are more excited by seeing something change in front of their eyes than, okay, we'll write a Python script that gets the first 10 Fibonacci sequence numbers. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
That's not exciting.
Masturbation doesn't do it for most people.
I mean, the Project Euler stuff is pretty fun. If it, like, you really want to start thinking about algorithms, but
Yeah. Well, but the Euler, what do you call it? Euler?
Euler is how it looks like it's pronounced.
Okay,
but
I'm gonna
Euler
call
is
it
how it's
Euler.
pronounced. Yeah, Euler's fine.
That feels to me more like math puzzles that mathematicians grin at themselves as they solve with like a goofy ass Haskell thingy.
Yeah, it is, but it also, you have to know algorithms in order to solve most of them, or like have some kind of, I guess, ear for algorithms.
Yeah.
Able to think in terms of algorithms, because some of them are like specifically set as traps, where if you try to do it the naive way, your program will take days to run.
Yeah, okay.
And you have to come up with a smart way to do it. It's actually their FAQ is like, you should be able to solve all of these with any computer in under a minute.
Okay. Yep.
So if your solution is taking days, you
You're
don't
doing
have the
it.
solution.
Yeah.
But it is more of a thinking kind of programming and less of a understanding how to think about programs in general, or execution process and syntax and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, should we do?
Now what should we do, he says.
Well, last time we did this, I managed to make it go into rainbow mode. That was fun.
Rainbow mode?
Yeah. Click change color and it would randomize the colors of Hello World, the background for Hello World, change color, and the button around change color. That was fun. I liked doing that.
Let's see, what I don't know what tricks we can do. Rainbow mode's a good one. How do you walking? Were you just picking random hex values?
Yeah, well, I was generating random numbers 3 times. I was summing that into RGB.
Yeah.
And you can just set
Got it.
yeah.
That might be a bridge too far.
I think it'll be pretty easy. It's not any harder than what we've already done.
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways to define colors in CSS. One is with the pound and then 6 values following it, which are hexadecimal, or 3 values. But there's also, you can define an RGB or an RGBA value, and that is RGB and then in parentheses 3 numbers between 0 and 255 for R, G, and B respectively. And so you could compute R, G, and B values then as decimal numbers, and then throw them into a command to set the CSS RGB for the background color, and you'd have, some random color. You follow?
Yeah.
You want to try that one?
Sure.
All right.
Okay. So we're using a jQuery sample here, so we can get some prettier syntax using jQuery. So you may want to look up like jQuery CSS, because I think what we need to change is .css, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
CSS.
There we go.
I think it takes 2 arguments.
Nope, just one, because the object is.
No, that's for fetching. For setting, you have 2 arguments. Yep.
Ah, okay. You are correct. I am wrong.
It's an overloaded function. It could take 1 or 2. So overloaded functions, I am not familiar with.
It just means it has, well, it's different. Usually that just means that the function can take different types or different numbers of arguments.
Mm-hmm.
So like plus is usually an overloaded operator where you can use it to add 2 floating points or 2 integers, or
Okay.
floating points to integers
Or
in some
concatenate.
cases, or concatenate in some languages, and it does different things based on whatever types you give it.
Okay.
Um,
Use more of the term of constructor. That's a function for you. Yeah. So, how does one define an overloaded, or is this like my misunderstanding how they work?
I mean,
Or
so
maybe it's.
if you don't have strong typing, then
So you got a function that's defined as CSS, which takes 2 values, and if you don't give it a second value, you assume it's a getter, and if you get 2 values, you assume it's a setter.
Yeah.
That's basically how it works.
yeah, if the second parameter is undefined, then
Yeah, right.
just get it instead of set it.
It's kind of gross JavaScript territory.
I mean, it's syntactically sweet, so
Yeah, it's syntactically sweet. I started on object-oriented programming with Objective-C, and I am not in love with it. But now I'm a Go developer, and so that shouldn't surprise anybody.
So, Kirk, what you'll want to do is probably just copy out one of these example code things. So, like that CSS property name function, well, not function, value.
You want one of these?
Yeah, you know what? Do that. That's perfect. That will work just fine for our purposes. Copy that. And then, so we have button defined. So go right underneath button and just put it underneath that button. We didn't copy the right thing, I guess.
What in the world happened there?
Clipboard malfunction.
Stupid Windows. There you go.
Okay, and you have to do this to something, and it has to be a jQuery type of object, which you only have 2 of those, which are banner and button right now.
Yep.
So probably just do it on button.
Okay.
So type in button.
Mystic Seagull, are you familiar with the concept of a monad?
Monads always seem to come up. It wasn't me this time. Let it be known. I did
chose
not
to
bring
go
up
there.
monads this time. This is case sensitive, so I want to make that button in lowercase b. Yeah.
There you go.
And so now this should.
What is going on? Oh, there's 2. Okay. Oh, again, I didn't understand that you could give it an object. Of course you can. I'm just being silly.
Okay.
jQuery is so syntactically sweet.
I like it.
It's fine.
So
And so I tried for like probably 17 months to figure out what a monad was, and I'd used jQuery before, and it sometime in month 18 it clicked that jQuery is a monad, and now I understand what monads are, but I didn't understand them from any of the explanations that I'd gotten, and like nowhere in the jQuery documentation that I've seen does it say that jQuery is a monad, and it seems like most JavaScript developers try to avoid calling it a monad. They don't know what monads are either, and you look up somebody asking, hey, is jQuery a monad? And people are like, no, monads are this, this, and this, and that, and the jQuery is none of those. And the response back is like, jQuery is all of those.
Right.
It's every single one of those things. Here's an example. It can encapsulate itself. It's like everything.
Returns itself.
Yeah. Takes itself as arguments, it returns itself as value. Like it's a monad.
Is this C#?
Go look at that.
Don't we need a button and a button.alt?
Hmm?
If you want them to be different colors.
There's only one button.
Yeah, but what about alt? Or, well,
no.
what about all the alt stuff
So
and
that
message stuff? And,
so alt is a class. So like
Yeah.
if you go into the HTML there, and where you see button, actually, yeah, just in button at the end of button, but before the, yeah, right in there, space, the word class equals double quote alt.
Oh, so you can actually define the function multiple times?
No, in
Yeah.
inside the double quotes, yeah.
That's not valid. Go.
Yep. And then click run on this.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense, Mystic Seagull. I just, ugh.
Oh, you know why that didn't work? Comment out the button.css
Wonder how common that
line
is.
there. Comment that out, and then run it again. There we
That's
go.
probably one of the things people complain about with Go. Can't overload a function.
yeah, but don't we want all of the
Oh,
things?
really?
Aren't we eventually going to want all of the things? Meaning banner message, button, banner dash message dot alt, banner dash message dot alt button. Are we going to want all those things to change their color?
Yes, but we're not going to change. So the CSS window here is just basically a set of defaults.
Okay.
Anything that we do in JavaScript is going to overwrite that completely.
Yeah, this effectively sets the style on the element, which overrides any other declarations of style.
Yeah, so if you define something on like body or button or any of the tag names, so here we have div, p, and button, and those are the tag names we have. If you define anything on that, any CSS style on that is going to be overridden by anything that's based on a class. Anything on a class is going to be overridden by anything that's on an ID. We have classes and IDs in here, but beyond that, anything you put like, you can add another style parameter to this. So add a space, style equals, and double quote. And I don't know if I just color :red
Colon red, sure.
and red, semicolon. I guess that's technically optional, but yeah. And then click run.
And due to specificity, increased specificity equals override.
Yeah.
Basically.
So that color red takes precedence over everything else, unless we use JavaScript to change it afterwards. Because when we change it in JavaScript, we're basically changing it right there.
Mm-hmm.
So it has the highest level of precedence over everything else. That make sense?
And there is one exception to that rule.
When you add important?
Yeah, if you add bang important to the end of any style declaration, it overrides. That's generally considered harmful, and people will kick you in the nuts for doing it. Because
That's how he
it's,
does
it's a
his.
hack.
Yeah.
We have paste bin restricted.
That's right. I was able to get to it because I'm not on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So we've got
So we want to go to
border
button.
left and background color being set, but that's fine.
Right, we want background. What?
So what's the goal? To just set the background color of
No,
our
we
button?
want to randomize
Randomized?
background. We want to randomize all the colors and make it go like full on rainbow.
Sure.
So we want a background,
So, but
this text, this button, and this color,
So
and the alternate background, text,
we
button, and text color.
the alternate doesn't
All
actually
random.
matter.
yeah, alternate won't matter because we're overriding it.
We're going to be overriding everything with like actually on the element styling.
So you could make any other permutations to the size of the box or the position of the box. The color is still going to be dictated by the JavaScript. And no matter what you change the alter, if you get different classes you're applying, it won't matter because the JavaScript's going to override it as it concerns color and at this point border left. Probably don't need border left.
But we want, what's the difference between background dash color and just background?
Background has multiple traits. Like it has a color. It can be an image. It can be a few other things. In this case, I think it can be a gradient too.
So, okay,
So if you just give background a color, then it sets background color. If
so we need that.
You can also just make that say background instead of background dash color. It'll still work.
Just some specify. Background and background color are equivalent.
I mean,
Have I been wasting like 7 keystrokes?
if you set it to a color, they're not equivalent because you can
Right.
you can use background to set images and other things and gradients. But if you just use background and you give it a color,
Just defines them as a cool constructor background.
How do we change the text color?
that's just the word color. You'd think it would be foreground, but it's not.
Yes.
Yep.
You got it.
Yeah, JSON is so straightforward that you don't even have to understand that you're writing JSON to write correct
I know,
JSON.
it's great. I love JSON.
So how do we
Well,
pass that we want it to put a random value in?
Set it to something first. We'll set it to a random value later.
so it's something we can iterate on it.
Yeah. White.
Whatever.
That'll work. I would recommend 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. There you
Yep.
go.
And now if you run this, it should do, well, more. We don't want them to be the same. We always want to see the
okay.
foreground from the
Yeah.
background.
I was suggesting contrasting colors.
Gotcha.
That's all.
We could use ugly colors like red and green just to make it so that you really, really want to fix it fast. Otherwise, you have to stare at that ugly Christmas-colored button.
Yep. So you understand why your buttons CSS is set immediately to black over white?
What?
I'm just watching what you're
Nice.
doing.
It's figuring stuff out pretty
Yep,
quick.
yep. I'm letting it happen.
FF0000.
There you go.
Oh, that's a color. Okay. That's not what I said, but that's valid also.
There you go.
Yep.
Oh, that is an interesting shade of yellow.
And now it overrides everything, so
Yeah.
change color doesn't even do anything anymore.
Right, right.
So what we're going to want to do is have, when you click on that, instead of, I mean, you can probably keep toggle. But
Yeah, hex is. I can't think in hex. I know people that can, and
I mean, I can think of colors in hex.
I can come up with some colors in hex only because I can associate the RG.
So we need to generate 4 random colors, correct?
Yeah. But what we can do is just write a function that generates random colors
Yeah,
and
I
then
agree,
call
Mr.
it 4 times.
So now you're gonna throw those into a generator. Is that what we're doing? You're gonna throw those into a generator. Of random color.
Yeah, now we want to feed
Yeah.
all 4 of these values are random.
So first we
Random
need a
color.
function that will get random numbers and make colors out of them. I call it like get random color. So it's slightly more conventional to start most of the function names with a lowercase. It's convention. It's not strictly necessary, but
It's a good convention.
yeah. It'll make your code look like everybody else's code, which makes it a little bit easier to read once you get used to the style. But as long as you capitalize it consistently, one way or the other, it'll still function.
Non-decimal divided by 16 equals res. Am I reading that wrong?
I think there's some missing line breaks in that would make for more clarity.
Huh?
I was just reading.
Oh,
yeah.
You talking to me? Or
Yes.
you talking
No,
to
we're talking to Mystic Seagull, who is listening and watching, but talking to us through the text chat instead of. Unfortunately, he cannot join us. I think he would be a great addition if he could join us. Yeah, so we need to get a random color. So to do that, we need a random number, right?
Yeah.
We don't have anything that gets a random number yet, so let's go to Google and say
Help.
JavaScript random number.
Stack Overflow help.
Hey, people look for this a lot, don't they?
Yeah. What's the floor? Is that
what
skin?
the heck is that? Is that in the desert?
That's a weird, disturbing photo. Oh, we can't forget to check on our buddies at.
Medium suggests adding a photo to your post. So here's a photo, although it has nothing to do with the math.random function.
Thanks, Medium. Such a great platform. I love Medium.
That's how you incentivize people to put pictures on their posts.
You just give them random shit.
Yeah. Here's something potentially disturbing.
How do you use math.random to generate a hex number?
So we don't need to generate a hex number, actually. Go back to the example that we have. No, I mean, the other tab. Yep. So here, instead of like instead of OOOFFF, click on that one and delete that. And delete that hash. And type in RGB, lowercase. I'm pretty sure that lowercase matters here. I'm not 100% sure.
Might.
And then open paren.
I'm never challenged.
And then 0, 0, 255. Yep, and then click on run, so let's test and make sure that works. And I guess it didn't work.
Color for the banner? Yeah, it's blue.
Oh yeah, it is. I thought it was going to be green. I'm bad. Okay, never mind. That's right. Yeah. I guess it was already kind of blue, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Perfect. So we're going to use that syntax. That way we don't need to worry about hexadecimal numbers.
Yeah.
So then we need to generate.
We'll need 3 random
6,
numbers.
12 random numbers between 0 and 255.
Let's generate 3 random numbers. Let's start with generating 1 random number, and then we'll generate that 3 times, and you'll have a function that will just output this whole RGB string.
Math has got to be capital M.
Yep. This is a very case-sensitive, picky language.
Random
Most are.
capital.
Random is not capital, it looks like. Another thing to notice is that this random number generator gives you a number between 0 and 1. So you will need to multiply it by the maximum number that you want. There's some languages and libraries where if you ask for a random number, it gives you an enormous number, somewhere between 0 and 4 billion, or
Right?
yeah, it looks right.
Yep.
That will get you 1 random color element.
Well, that's going to return you a float.
It is. So we'll probably want to use floor, which was also being discussed on that other article.
Yep. Come back to that article.
Because I don't know how well it would respond if you actually gave it a float.
I don't know either.
We could find out.
Well, so it wants you to wrap the result of math.random times something in math.floor.
So
You
go,
need both.
go back to the article. Yeah. So we'll need to keep that.
Yep.
And put that whole thing in parentheses.
The whole line, yep.
Open at the end, or beginning, close at the end. And then we're going to give this to a function that will take your floating point number and just snap it to the nearest
Yep. So all the way to the beginning of that line.
integer.
There you go.
I know, I think either
Math.floor.
math.seal or I think math.seal is going to give us the full range. I think floor would give us a range
you might be right.
of 254.
You don't need more parentheses.
Yeah, you have the right number of
You have a
parentheses.
sufficient number of parentheses.
So that will give you one of the numbers, the red or green or blue, doesn't matter which one. You're going to need 3 of these.
I'm not gonna need. I'm gonna need 9. 3 for here, 3 for here, 3 for here, 3 for here.
That would be 12. But
Oh, 12.
Well, it's going to be easier if we just have the function generate the string that says RGB.
Okay.
So let's start by just like at the beginning of this. Well, I don't want to do this. We're going to need to store this in a variable probably.
Okay.
So if I want like var, no, not a global variable. Oh, we should just explain the scope, huh?
Hmm?
So inside a function, you can have variables that are inside a function and variables that are outside a function. If it's outside a function, it's called global because any function can access it. If it's inside a variable, then only that function can access it unless it returns it out as a return value, which is what we're going to want to do.
var space, and then the variable name.
Probably red or green or blue. No, that's not what you're trying to get. Just what are you going to use this for ultimately, right?
Yeah.
You want this to be the red value. I don't know if that's. I guess it'll probably work.
The difference between var and the let.
That won't work. What?
One of a constant.
I think that'll work, but it's not.
So yeah,
The
you
more
got
conventional syntax is to put var green equals math.floor like all on one line.
Yeah.
Instead of putting it on 2 different lines.
And you want spaces between the equals and the other things.
I don't think you need it, but it'll be happier.
I said want.
It looks nicer. It's easier to read. Okay. Yeah, so now you can copy this line and paste that in like 3 times, one for green and blue.
Mystic, let versus var. What's the difference? I thought one of them was constant, but I could be wrong.
I think const is constant, isn't it?
Oh.
Oh,
Well,
I don't know if JavaScript has. Oh. Okay. Oh, there is a constant. Okay.
They're just moving away from var, like, because that's what's in vogue.
I think let is more of a functional thing. It's like a functional language type of convention.
Okay.
I mean, one of the things that I've been kind of learning Rust, and Rust uses let to declare all the variables.
So like in Swift, you can be var or let, and one of them is a constant.
So I think with one of them, like let will let you override a variable later, at least in Rust it will. And another functional language of languages that I've played with, you can override it later in a different scope, but when you go back to the original scope, the value that you defined as let hasn't changed. So it can be defined once and it can't be altered.
Immutable.
Right.
Constant.
It's not necessarily constant because it can be redefined. Like
So,
pi is a
okay,
constant
yeah.
because pi is always pi.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's just immutable.
yeah. Okay, yeah, that's a good start. So
So now I want to pass red, green, and blue to a string.
not pass it to a string. You want to make them into a string.
Yeah, I want to put it in
So-
this. I want to replace 0 with the red, this 0 with the green, and this 0 with the, or
Yep.
255 with the blue.
So you've got the 3 values here. You can concatenate those together
Okay.
into a string along with the RGB parentheses and commas, the whole lot, and intersperse into them the variable. So you could say return.
We're going to want to give this back to whoever called it. It'll make sense later. Return.
Space, and then quotes. Start with your string RGB.
B. Yep. Red, green, do.
And then
No, that
won't work
No.
because it's going to return the actual string. So now you need to get out of your string by doing another set of quotes. Yep. And now plus red plus. Nope.
because you want to put a comma in there too.
Yeah,
There isn't
comma.
a comma in there
Go
yet.
back into your string by doing another double quotes. There you go. Nope. Comma. Another double quotes.
Ah. I'm getting so lost
Plus-
right now.
That's what, it's trying to be helpful by adding in the closing
Blue or
characters.
green. Other green.
Right.
Plus.
It makes more sense if you know what the end value is going to look like
Mm-hmm.
rather than being guided through it slowly. And then
You got it.
Yep.
Yep, that's it.
so that gives us a whole string of RGB with random values in it.
Okay.
So now you can replace the RGB blah 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 in your object there, RGB 00255.
Mhm.
Just delete the string and put in get random color.
Well, not yet, because get random color is defined afterward, after you execute
Well, okay,
that.
yeah, fair enough.
But we'll probably want to make that part of like when you click the button, it runs a function that does that.
Yes.
Let's make the function that we want to run when we click the button. Because we want the button clicked to change the colors. I want the color change to get the random colors.
Right.
Right, those are going to be 2 separate functions.
Alright, so we need a new function?
Yeah, like a new function, and this will be the one that we run when we click. I'll let you try and name it and see what you come up with.
Sand scratch.
Yeah, naming things is hard.
I don't understand what. So what's this function doing?
You need the function that you click on. When you click on the button,
Yeah.
it's going to run a function. If we just give it get random color, yeah, sure, that's fine.
Nope.
No, that's fine. So we're going to want this to be the one that changes the colors on those elements that we defined above.
Okay.
So those 2 lines that we did the CSS, yeah, those, move them into the function. Because that's where we're going to be need to set them instead. And yep,
Go away. Right. Do those not need to be?
those
are
are
just wrapping.
runovers
Okay.
from the previous line. Okay, so we have a function that will give us the RGB values that we want. So I believe in this. You can just use get random color and replace it.
Don't even need your quotes. In fact, you can't have them. There
Yeah,
you go.
because you don't want to just have the words get random color. You want to have the actual random color that we're trying to get.
And you need to call it, so you need parentheses.
Yeah. You want to set the background to the function. You want to set the background to what the function returns. Yep.
Actually. Right.
Is the mouse being janky?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's on a couch, so it's not being very cooperative.
To that end, I think it operates on 2.4 gigahertz, which I've come to learn recently. If you got a little USB dongle with radio in it sitting next to another USB 3 thingy that is transmitting data, the USB 3 interferes with 2.4. So that's very specifically not doing what you want.
Oh, so the difference between var and let in JavaScript are that var is function scoped and let is block scoped.
Really?
Yeah.
Block scoped.
So like
for loops.
Yeah, for loops, you'd want to use let I equals 0 instead of var I equals 0.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So it is kind of what I was thinking, but not. They said it much more explicitly when I Googled it.
So what's the problem, Kirk? What's happening?
Not working? Did you click on run?
Uh-huh.
So when you click the button, what's being called?
Calling toggle 5 times.
What do you want it to call?
Click color.
That capital C is so small.
Yeah, it's really challenging in this font. Wow.
Yeah, that worked.
Yeah, but now it's not doing the...
Oh, do you want to do it 5 times? Because you didn't tell it to do click color 5 times.
So can you make those both happen?
Oh.
Well, might want to just copy the whole function instead of trying to change the name of it.
Totally agree, Mystic, but we're working on getting function declaration and stuff correct. One step at a time. You should come around for hard mode night. It's the last. I try to make it the last night of the month where we take on something stupid hard, and all the newbies get to just point and laugh. Look at you go. How are you? It seems like you're ending up with green and purple colors somehow. Is that just luck?
We didn't. Last time we had to seed the random numbers. So they were
that
really
was
random.
in Go.
That was in Go.
Oh.
Yeah, this will
But it's a good point.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're getting opposing colors and stuff.
I remember that extremely predictable Simon game that we made. That was fun. Could win the game every time.
So you done did it. You understand what you did?
Yeah.
The business with the math.floor and math.random and all that stuff is a little bit annoying, but I mean, once you got it tucked away in a function, you can stop thinking about it.
Yep.
Got it. Yeah, this part.
Concatenating.
Yeah, all the freaking quotes, man.
Yeah. Well, if you've ever done anything with concatenating in like Excel, it's extremely similar, except for worse because a concatenation operator is a function, and it takes arguments separated by commas as well. So it's a nightmare of quotes and commas.
So the reason we got it is so it's string plus variable, string plus variable, string plus variable.
Exactly right.
Other than string.
It may be more helpful to add more spaces in
Yeah,
between
it's
the
helpful to add a
pluses.
little more space, but
Yeah, because everything that's not inside these quotes is either going to be evaluated or the spaces are going to go away. If it's a space that's inside the quotes, it's going to end up in your string. But yeah, does that make it a little bit easier to follow?
Yeah.
sweet.
And there's a way that we can save this, actually, if we want to come back to it later. Uh-oh. Hope we didn't just lose it.
Probably. Oh well.
Go back.
It's gone.
Oh well.
The learning you did isn't. Apparently there's
You
a
probably got
problem.
to sign in to save it, I think.
Unsaved draft, click. Apply local draft. Look at that.
Hey.
Hey JSFiddle, you're okay.
Thanks, cookies. Cookies are your friend. Unless they're from Google.
Yeah. Now, let's not type a password on the stream. Just go and put that out there.
Well, it's going to be.
You think so? Do you know? Try typing ASDF in there. Okay. You can do what you want there. I'm just looking out for your whatevers.
Well, I'm not going to give it the same password as anything else anyway.
That's totally fine. Password 123. Alright.
Nobody else will break that one.
I always just use the MD5 of their privacy policy. That'll never fail. And then I get emails anytime my password needs to change.
Do you already have an account for this?
No, it says the username is already taken.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you don't already have an account for this.
So you're resetting your password. You're gonna reset some poor bastard's password. See if their reset is any good and just says, we just sent it. Yeah, no, see that, they shouldn't be side channel leaking that.
You probably don't have one. If
Yeah, I'm just going to try it. This is the only other email address I would have done it with.
Alright, then yeah, you just have to pick a unique username. Stop having such a common name.
Yeah, how's that a problem?
I was just saying, I'm pretty sure Captain Kirk is going to be taken. So,
Oh,
but
I guess
I guess when you add the rest of it.
yeah.
Is the kind of place where that username will go very quickly.
Yep.
No.
So now,
So you can just copy everything into a notepad.
Yeah, exactly.
Or do that. That works
Yeah,
too.
totally works.
You click on jQuery at the,
Whoa.
He's in jQuery.
oh, he's not.
Oh, no, he's not.
In the bottom there, in that drop down,
Yeah.
look for frameworks and extensions and pick jQuery. It'll be in there somewhere.
Oh God, I'm being exposed to all kinds of JavaScript frameworks that are making my head hurt.
Right? There's so many.
Thorax.
Oh, they have 3JS. I didn't know they had 3JS in this.
Version.
It doesn't matter.
3.4.1 is fine.
We're using like the most basic feature set of it, so there's nothing new that would change anything.
Yeah. Ouch.
And run.
Run and then save. Nice.
Oh,
Nope.
click on that drop down that we clicked on before. Look at the load types and see what. Oh, okay.
3.3.
I don't think that's the issue, but
I don't
it
think
won't
so
hurt
either.
to make it the same.
Well, now they're the same, so hit run again.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
I was wrong. That was the
I'll
issue,
make this go away.
That seems impossible.
right? How do they make Java or jQuery that much in that small of a version change?
Well, you guys didn't hear 3.4 completely shutters the language.
Sure. Oh, what?
Now click on it 3 times really, really fast. Party!
Does jQuery allow
Allow what?
backticks with jQuery expressions inside the string? I don't know. I ain't never tried. I always assumed JavaScript was too dumb and just, yeah.
I don't think I've ever used backticks in any of these
JavaScript?
languages.
Me
Not in
neither.
JavaScript, not in HTML, not in CSS.
No.
Never used a backtick.
What's the body?
Well, Node would be a whole different beast. Well, not whole different, but you know what I mean. Body, what? Body is the HTML body. So like you don't have it explicitly called out, but you do have one.
It's the one that's setting the background. So if you set that background to white instead, and you can just use the word white. You have to get rid of the pound sign, but
I think Node.js has some special sauce in it that the V8 engine on.
Yep.
I think we're on Chrome. Is this Chrome? This is Firefox.
that's Chrome.
All right.
Randomize everything, the margins.
But I'm not a Node.js expert. I've never even used it. I actively avoid it. No, all right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree, but I haven't used Node.
I'm sure there's problems where it's a great solution.
I know it's really fast, but
Yeah.
it's really fast, single-threaded, event-driven thingy, and I like non-single-threaded thingies. Literally anything as long as it's single-threaded.
I know. Just for fun, would be cool to make every time it changes colors,
Well, it's not
make
multi-threaded.
Hello World change to a
Well, they
different
got
language.
like promise callbacks and stuff. Okay, well, there you go.
So is Node just the new Java?
It's not the new
Right,
shop.
once run everywhere.
I'm sure they would all appreciate you calling it that.
JavaScript has now finally become Java.
You know that's not true.
Yeah, it's a lot less static, whatever, static public void, whatever.
Verbose?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Node has added some fancy shit.
Yeah, but yeah, I would doubt that you need to use it.
Yeah,
like you
no.
need to use it in Java.
Unfortunately, I'm extremely biased, and I group Node in with Ruby in my distaste for it. Like it's there in the browser, and it's fine, but I'm not running my server code on it. Yeah. I'm too firmly planted in Go territory. Yeah, strictly typed languages, static languages or statically compiled binaries, like that's my jam. Yeah, I've seen Primogen using TypeScript, and I don't find that offensive. It's all right.
I haven't looked at TypeScript. What kind of types are there? Did they actually separate the kinds of numbers, or is it all just one number type?
Good question. I don't know. And in fact, I don't think I could speak to the type system of TypeScript at all.
Let's ask Google, what are the types in TypeScript? Thanks for fixing my spelling, Google. Basic types. Number. Yeah, it looks like there's just one number type.
Oh, that sucks.
I mean, it's still JavaScript, so, like...
Yeah, it's getting what? Cross-compiled or transpiled into JavaScript? Unless Node can run TypeScript directly, I don't know. Okay, it can. Kind of went around your elbow to get your ass on that one, didn't you, Node? Sure. Yeah, I associate Node so closely with build systems of all kinds, not just Node related, but like we had a Go thing is that we were trying to use internally here, and part of the build system required that we installed Node and I want to say Ruby, and it just infuriates me to have to install a whole different language to compile a thing that's written in another language, and I don't think that's acceptable. Yeah.
I mean, learning this kind of makes you want to play with Electron a bit.
Oh, God. Well, good luck.
Yeah, right?
You familiar with what we're talking about, Kirk?
Nope.
Squirrel was the one that was really a pain in the ass. Squirrel sucked.
Electron is bloated as hell.
So Electron is like Discord is written in Electron. It's basically an HTML and JavaScript UI, like what you're doing here, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and a backend kind of process that runs like a web server that the front end that you see just talks to that. So it's
Right.
like a web app that's local.
Yeah, it is literally a local web app.
Yeah.
But I think Slack is on Electron,
Slack
and their
is.
notifications kick ass.
Alright, now, what if I wanted to get rid of the button and put a timer, just put a timer that looks at the current time and counts down to 5, like if we were, and then put all this in a web page that we could put at full screen before the stream starts.
Yeah, we could do that.
Sure could.
Probably just put that on the like make that part of the clock.
Yep. You sure could.
I want to get rid of the button and make it check what the current time is and count down till 5.
Oh, we're already getting a time in the clock, so that'll be already available.
Yeah.
Whatever, I don't know.
I mean,
You know what I'm saying. I want it to count down till 5, or count down until 5 p.m.
Yeah, we'll add a countdown timer to the clock. That's in the test, right? The first tab? This
Huh?
clock? Yeah, this clock.
Yep. Might have to make that a project for next week. I got an alternator I gotta go install in a truck.
And then you just bump up the
You can.
bunch of times so it keeps going.
What you need to do is make it play whatever that. Say that sound at the same time as it's
German
changing.
techno music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just do some HTML5 audio. No big deal.
Is that a problem, officer?
All right.
I did not save my fiddle.
You saved it here. This is saved, right?
Yeah, you saved it to the cloud.
There's a save button right up here.
Yeah, but if I go to my fiddles,
Mm-hmm. All your fiddles. Titled, untitled. Did you title it?
yeah. It was called. Where the heck did the title thing go? There was one.
So this is P0JWB.
Yeah, I had titled it.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably just the ID.
Yeah, it's CAD Hello World Rainbow. That's what
Yeah.
I named it.
Well, that's where we are.
But if I go to my fiddles, there's nothing there.
That's it right there. It's just not titled what you expect.
Well, then why is the HTML and the CSS gone?
I don't know. I didn't make this damn thing.
Oh,
It is an auto mission.
And if you save now. And run.
looks like it saved. Your fiddles.
Huh. That's
And
interesting.
what did you double click on precisely? Because it looked like
The white space, yeah. 'Cause there's nothing else there.
Well, scroll down. Oh. What the hell? I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Hit run and then save. Go back. Click on number 10 as the latest version. They're versioned. Interesting.
The first version that you saved didn't have it.
Yep. Too clever. All right.
Now you have 10 versions that do have it, though.
Yep. I gotta go.
Are we logged in as you?
Yeah, you're logged in as me.
Okay.
Thanks for hanging out, Mystic. And any other lurkers out there. We will, I'll be probably broadcasting next, doing more shit with Squishy, but then we'll be back here next week doing probably more of the same. Alright, we'll catch you all later. Have a good one.
Adios.